Welcome to today's episode of Cerius Leadership. This is where we have business insights by business leaders, and we're really glad that you joined us today. Today's conversation centers around the customer, the thing we're always looking for, but sometimes the thing we often forget. To lead this conversation, the president of Cerius, Kristen McAllister.
Thank you, Chris. And as you mentioned, our guest today is Andrew Jordan. Hi, Andrew is a product officer, strategist, really a disruptor leading faster market responses. Andrew, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much.
And it's
Glad
been
to be
a
here.
long time coming. We've known each other for a number of years. And I remember you being a thought leader on disruption when the rest of us were still trying to figure out how to turn on this new thing called an iPhone. You've been doing this, and I know that you've written on this, you've done white papers, you've taught entire university courses on this. You've got 30 minutes to teach us everything you know on the topic.
No pressure. No
Are
pressure.
you ready? We're gonna at least get a foundation understanding, and I know that you've got some really good tangible insights on a topic that can be very esoteric and intangible. So I'm going to just jump right into it.
Okay.
As you know, I always like to start with a foundational understanding on what does a customer-centric organization look like? What are we striving to look like when we say we're customer-centric?
Good. All right. Great. Thank you. Let me start with this. So somebody in your network that I had a one-on-one with had this following quote articulated by one of his client CEOs. He basically said, the older I get, the more Buddha I feel. Now, put a pin on that because that's going to be very relevant to what we're going to talk about. Customer centricity is not a taste de jour thing, right? To me, customer centricity is how every company should be organized. And if you look at all the companies that have been organized around the concepts of customer centricity and design versus creating, the word design versus creation, have been exceed and have done much better, right? Including the most valuable company in the world called Apple. So let me start by saying that customer centricity is a holistic mission that should be articulated via vision statements, just like we do other things for a company, and mission statements, right? And to me personally, I want to be, to me, my mission is basically to be a holistic, wholesome change agent for my customers, right? I want to solve their problems. I want to tap into their zeitgeist, figure out where the pain points are. And I know we overuse these terms, pain points, right? But it's true. But more than pain points, I want to know where my clients are being held back from doing the things they want to do, right? And to do that, you don't do it by reading endless reports and sitting in front of your computer doing quick researches. You do it by actually engaging with your customers in new ways. And I'm not talking about listening. Yeah, I'm going to use the word listening, but I'm talking about listening with intent and action, with action intent, right? And using different engagement techniques to actually listen to your customers and draw out what I call their future energy, right? Their energy to what's amazing about the people you're going to talk to and when you really engage them is that people have this creative instinct. We all do. We are creative agents, right? We're not transactional figures. We're creative agents. And when you tap into them and you build their trust, they're going to tell you amazing things. They're going to tell you new insights that are competitive insights at the end of the day. So you want to get to those insights relevant to your product, relevant to your business as early as possible. And the way you do this with certain tactics and techniques, which we're going to talk about. And a lot of this is derived from concepts like design thinking and quick startup methodologies that have came out of Stanford and Silicon Valley, right? So. But I wanted to, and I made some notes here because I don't want to lose a lot of the concepts that I'm going to go by. So one thing we want to do in this centricity, which we need to start infusing into a company, one of the main things is, again, to find those pain points, to discover those unmet needs, which was a term made famous by Steve Jobs. And we're going to use very specific techniques to do that. And what I really ultimately want to do is drive a culture that's what I call perspective taking, right? That takes a lot of the customer perspective and embed it into your workflows and embed it into your product sets.
We have a lot of conversations. Clients love to brain dump on us, whether it's to marketing, to the sales people, engineering, to customer service. Here's a lot from customers. Usually the not so good is the good. How do you infuse that into your culture where that information is feeding back to the right people?
Correct. So how do you do that? You do
Yeah.
this. So yeah, so and we're going to get to some of these points earlier, but we'll touch on them right now. I mean, later, so we'll touch on them right now. So one thing that I've discovered after so many years of business, right? I think we're going 35 plus now, is that companies are built to be transactional. They're not built to be sensing, right? If you want to be a sensing company, you need to hire people that are sensors, right? People that have the ESPs, I call them ESPs, extra sensitive people that are in tune with what's happening with the zeitgeist and that can read the tea leaves. And those people are the ones that distill these things, right? Distill these insights, and they're responsible. For example, ASP. ASP is organized in a way that every product group has one of these people, has a designer, right, embedded into the product team. And that person is assured to take those insights from a different mindset, right, and embed them into more of a transactional mindset, which is where the actual requirements for the next software update happens, right? So that's the way they do it. SAP happens to be a design thinking company, and has absorbed a lot of these ways of doing it. So that's how you do it. I mean, there's a little more complex than that, but in a very broad view, that's how you start embedding these things into your product flows.
So you're saying find the individuals in the organization who are those good listeners.
Yes.
And when you look at the speed that things are changing right now, how they're keeping up with that product innovation, taking into account the various stakeholders that are in it. It's hard enough finding that new product when you're taking into account information from within your own company. Now we have third party. In order to be customer centric, we're asking our customers and we're constantly iterating with them. It almost feels like a hamster wheel. How do you address that speed of change into your design process?
Okay, so very simple, very easy. Actually, this stuff is not costly. This is the beauty of this. I mean, I've seen problems resolved in a matter of weeks, which would take years using the old traditional way of doing things. So let's imagine you are developing a new software. Let's say you have an update to new software and you want to develop a new UX, right? And instead of sending all your designers and all your management to start research what are the best UX practices, you literally go to lunch, you grab a bunch of what I call brand fans, people that you've pre-identified, and usually to get maximum benefit out of this, you want about 8 to 12 people. You develop your UX, you develop your wireframes, you print them out, right? Print out your wireframes, you take them to lunch, have pizza, have a beer, make it very friendly, go to a nice restaurant or have a nice room, a beautiful room in your office, and you just put it in front of them and say, hey, here are the wireframes of the UX we're proposing. Please look at them, and we're just going to sit here and observe how you handle these. And when this is happening, right, you have designers, you have business people looking at their behaviors, looking at what they're saying, and you make notes very quick. You make notes. You say, okay, Rhonda stopped in wireframe 3 and she paused. Why? So you make a note of that. Why she paused? Afterwards, after more rounds of beer and pizza, you just distill all the learnings and you say, hey, why did you pause in wireframe 3? There's an issue there, right? And then they'll tell you, I didn't like the color. Oh, and the button was in the wrong place. That's it. Very easy, right? very quickly, one lunch session, not costly. You replace your lunch with having people over and tapping into their what I call future forward thinking.
I love it. You talk about brand fans, and I've seen it implemented in various organizations, sometimes a little more structured than otherwise. I've seen that customer roundtables or street teams. I like that you call them brand fans. Is you've got every organization has a group of core customers or relevant customers where they're getting them together on a regular, semi-regular basis. And they're not making a move without checking in and saying, what do you think of this? And I like that you're saying, get the engineering team. There's some debate on who is managing those brand fans and those street team and who is present and bringing the information back. Is it the product managers and those listeners? Is it the engineers, or is it the sales team who's going to be then selling the product to them? Who should be engaged in getting this customer, especially since it's a culture that we're looking to build?
Interesting, great question. In fact, I read it's funny, yesterday I was reading about Steve Jobs, and Steve Jobs had the saying that the best managers are not necessarily the managers, are those that actually listen, listen to clients. So in answer, it's not a binary thing, right? It's whoever has the skill and the most sensing abilities to really tap into the person's brain and have a conversation and extract those pain points and distill those into requirements. Now, in my experience, those people can be across the range. It's not necessarily the function is more of the skill, right? It could be a software. Rarely, I mean, it could be a software person. Maybe it could be a marketing guy. In my experience, it's those people that can are the front end of the company, right? Either in sales or service delivery. I've had a lot of requirements in my career come from service delivery people, believe it or not. After we do postmortems and stuff like that, they would come back to me and say, when I was a brand manager, they would come back to me and say, "Hey, this person said this, and this. How do we solve that?" So it's real. Again, it's a skill, and it's a skill that it's a muscle that can be developed by anybody, but some people are better at it than others.
So as we're getting these individuals together, that speed of change is sped up quite a bit, for lack of a better description. From the planning cycle used to be 5 years, and you would take those clients out on a big retreat every couple of years. Then it went down to 3 and 18 months, and now it feels like our planning cycles are quarterly.
Mm-hmm.
How are we tapping into that forward looking, and how we're adapting to that forward looking vision with the customers?
So here's the thing.
Those trends. How are we helping them as well spot the trends ahead?
So here's the thing. In my world, because of the onslaught of data that's been generated by the internet, right? And it's going to continue. Now we have AI, right? There is no quarterly cycles anymore. It's real time. It's every single day. We have a software that can capture sentiment, right? Real time, right? That are looking at behaviors and looking at when you're on the website, what you're doing, how you're moving. Now we're even going to have eye trackers, right? So the point here is, as you tap into, I'm a big believer in this very virtuous cycle. Technology changes us, we change technology, and it just goes on and on and on. And if you have a marketplace where you're selling it to Gen Zs, a lot of us here are not Gen Zs, as I see. You got to tap into the way of seeing things, right? And if you're not talking to Gen Zs via whichever engagement mechanism you have, you're not going to be able to tap into what's required tomorrow. Let me give you an idea. Let me give you an example. There's something I call the status economy, which I don't know if anybody's used that term, but I'll put it out there. Gen Zs are, I see it in my daughter, who's a Gen Z, addicted to status. Where's my product? When is it going to get to my house? When is my food coming? Right? 6 seconds, 1 second, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. If you're in the service delivery business right now and you're not doing constant statuses to whatever you're delivering, then you're missing out on a new behavior that is being built to reduce anxiety, like we talked about. It's a customer-centric tool, right? Let me give you an example. I just got off the plane from United Airlines. United Airlines has one of the best apps in the world because guess what? They give you constant status. Now they're adding why, because since we don't have to shutter our phones anymore, well, in some airlines you don't have to shutter our phones anymore. It gives you status of when you're going to get there, where your luggage is going to be, right? And it starts before your journey. It starts by saying, "Hey, welcome. Hey, we'll see you in an hour." Right? This constant status lowers my anxiety. Incredible. It's an incredible effect on my anxiety. So again, we're deploying the status thing that we only really learned from listening to Gen Zs, and because they're going to be the next market, right? The market is moving up. So learning from them, learning the Zitgeist, seeing what the culture, how it's changing. The only way you do that is by engaging with these people on a regular basis. And of course, software platforms that can do a lot of this, like trend spotting. But there's ways you can do it cheaply, like we talked about, and other engagement methodologies where you'll tap into this and you'll grow with a virtuous circle, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. You just mentioned trend spotting. Elaborate on that a little bit more. And you said there's some easy, simple ways to do that other than, buying some large, expensive SaaS product. I'm sure it's out there, business intelligence
Yeah. So trend spotting, there's something called that we've used in the past that I advise my customers. It's called a trend radar. I don't know if anybody here's heard of that, but it's a very simple tool. So you can get, I think trend spotting is sort of like they're competitive insights, right? And a lot of companies that have some of these systems in place to listen to their customers and actively listen won't share the actual methodology because that's become a competitive tool. But trend spotting is one that's very important, I feel. I came from a telecom background, an internet background, and we regularly did this, right? So let me give you an example of a cheap way of doing this. Aside from buying SaaS software, there's some incredible platforms out there that you put in your company, and it'll tell you who's a threat to you and do scenarios for you. But let's say you don't have any money to do that, right? Gather your management team, go to a big whiteboard, again, get pizza or beer, whatever you want, or both, and plop your company in the middle of your whiteboard. And then draw some circles around it, literally like a radar, one concentric circles, right? Closer, further, assign timelines to that, 18 months, 2 months, whatever. And then start plotting your trends. So before you actually do this, because management people are busy, you have some other people, lower ranks, to do some research. Go to the web and try to find trends that are going to impact your business. And there's so much data out there that you can actually ask GPT right now. Say, what are the trends going to impact my business, right? Map them, right? Literally map it in a visual way. And then what you do is you drive a consensus, and then you drive a consensus of which ones are closest to your center, which ones are close, which circle are closest, and start playing scenarios. So then you bring a bunch of people in. You bring the executives, but you also bring beginners, what I call beginner mindset, right? And start playing scenarios. Okay, what will happen when AI hits our operation product cycles, whatever, I don't know. And start playing scenarios, and it's amazing what will happen. The power of human creativity is start generating incredible ideas as to how you can start adapting some of those things. And then you take those ideas and you assign it a priority, 1, 2, 3. You focus on the first one in terms of, you assign it a priority, hard, middle, easy, and you take the bottom ones that are easy and start working on those. Just doing that, it'll give you presence in what's happening out there, and it will start really changing your mindset and pushing that forward into the company.
And I can see that really takes us out of the box of our normal everyday. How much of that information am I circling back to with that brand fan, the customer roundtable, my team out there? How much of that is being circled around and getting feedback on? Are you seeing this? Is this impacting you?
Yes. So here's the thing. When you start doing this, there's many dynamics, human dynamics that happen here. One, you start developing your empathy coefficient. You start realizing that people's pain points are your pain points. So there's a feedback mechanism into yourself. There's also there's many tricks. Because, I read a lot about neuroscience and how we can use neuroscience to better manage our companies, right? One trick that I advise my customers on is when you get insights, relevant insights that are relevant, put it out there to everybody, right? Send a massive email to your employees saying, look what we discovered from, Clara that was reading our wireframe, this, da, right? That's one thing. Egalitarian, don't keep these things unless there's some reason to keep it secret in terms of you're doing an acquisition or something like that. I don't know, but put it out there to everybody. Everybody wants to participate in this, I think, right? Then do another thing that's very good in terms of neuroscience is start putting all these insights and start developing a persona, right? So who is Andres Jordan, or my name, get a fake name, right? Who is James Willis? I don't know. And start print this person, print a big poster and put this is James Willis, and this is what he likes, and this is what he wants from us. It's amazingly powerful. People walk by and say, oh, that's the guy I'm innovating for. Oh, that's the guy I'm doing the product for, right? So the idea is that in this customer-centric ecosystem, which is very, very egalitarian, you got to put this information out to everybody. It might not be relevant to them. Okay, so it might not be relevant to the person that's doing the service delivery, but it is, right? It might not be an actionable insight for him or her, but it's something that will stay in their mind and say, oh, next time I'm talking to my customer, maybe I need to mention that we're changing to color blue instead of red.
You mentioned at the beginning, I want to tag into something you just said about kind of developing empathy amongst our teams, where some of us may not naturally have that EQ quotient to listen and reflect back. You talk about finding those individuals in your organization. You're then creating your brand fans and your roundtables. And now we've got our trend radars where we're engaging. I can start to see how you're developing a culture within it. I want to dive in a little bit more as you've talked about reflective products and services and how much that active listening can play into that when you're enabling your customer to create the future generation or the next set of products to meet their unmet needs.
Oh my God, thank you. This is an area that I just love. I love catching companies doing bad things or bad products. So what I mean by reflective product, it reflects back on what they actually want. We're crying out loud, and we're so bad at doing this. I want to give you a very specific example of someone that's the richest man in the world, depending on what week you look at, Elon Musk. And for somebody that said the following thing, assume that you're wrong and try to be less wrong, he got this thing really wrong, and I'll tell you what it is. I don't know if anybody owns a Tesla X here, but Tesla X was a car designed with this, what he calls this Falcon doors that open up like this. They're incredible, right? They're fantastic, beautiful engineering work. He wanted those doors. It turns out the customer did not want those doors. The customer they wished he had used all that capital, which apparently, according to him, if you Google it, might have buried the company because it was so complex of a door. They said, no, we want more range. The anxiety is on our range on our car. It's not a stupid door, right? So what was the pain point? The pain point is I'm not going to buy an EV because I am afraid of range anxiety. I'm not going to be able to get to my family, in Las Vegas because I have to stop, blah, blah, blah. That's the anxiety, right? Not the doors, how the doors open. So the anxiety is range. That's reflective of my pain point. I want more range. And companies miss this step all the time. If you're talking to your brand fans and if you're doing these sessions, you would have gotten that. He would have gotten that. But I don't know if they did or not. But
How,
that's a
how
very
do you, how do you see past that? And what are some questions that you're asking? Because that's a really tough thing to, wow, that's cool. And wow, that's something that I want and need and will pay for it. Because the wow, that's cool tends to be an automatic trigger. They love this. Let's go develop it. What questions can we ask, or what are we listening for from our clients to distinguish between that's cool and the excitement of how neat that would be to have the futuristic wings versus here's what I'm actually feeling. Here's what I
right.
need you to solve for me.
So, by the way, if there's one thing I want everybody to remember from this is the think versus feel thing divide, right? Whenever you're talking to your customers, don't ask to think, ask to feel. So let's say whatever it is, software, you develop the next mousetrap, right? Ask them how do they feel about using that mousetrap. It's amazing. It engages a different part of the world, a different part of your mind, where the emotions are. It's all about emotions, all about emotions. You got to get to these emotions. And here is the answer to your question. There's something called journey mapping. You can Google it. There's thousands of journey maps you can find out there. So you do a journey map. Here's my Tesla. And then you start mapping the process of somebody buying a Tesla, using a Tesla, they're talking about a range and all the stuff. And you identify the moments of truth. They call them moments of truth. So you say, well, actually, let's go with an airline example. It's much better, right? So you identify the process of you buying the ticket and getting into the airplane, right? And there's going to be moments of truth. One is, oh, I got to drive to the airport. Oh, that sucks, right? That's a very negative point. It's a very negative emotion, right? I got to stand in line, group 1, 2, 3, 4. I got to stand in line. Very high emotional, very negative, right? You get to those places and you ask questions. You ask them. In this moment of truth, it's a very, very stressful, anxiety provoking experience. And you start asking them, right? And they'll tell you, well, I wish, and then you start developing solutions in collaborating with them, and they'll tell you, they say, well, I wish there was a way that you could, transport me, as opposed to whatever, wait.
Mhm.
So that's how you get to it. And here's the thing. When you do this and you gather all these data points from real people, empathetic people, you with empathy and understanding that you're at some point in time, you're going to be in the same place, right? You're going to be waiting in that line. And I hate it. I don't know if you guys, but I personally hate before you get in an airplane. I wish I had my own airplane. So all those people have their own airplane. Awesome. But so you identify, and it's undeniable data. There's a company called, I think we're at 30 minutes here, but let me finish the
Okay,
thought.
great.
Capital One, when they launched their banking, the board wanted to have some sort of fee. And the design team told them, our people tell us, the people that we interviewed, that we talked to, said they don't want this fee. They could not, they had to accept that. They couldn't move forward with implementing that fee, all because of the people they had talked about, those brand fans.
I love it. So I've got a lot of notes here, and there was a lot of great information in there. Just to do a recap, to finding those great listeners, those individuals that everyone is going to and wanting to dump their challenge, their problem, their excitement. Who is everyone going to in the organization? Those are those listeners to create those brand fans, your customer roundtable. The trend spotting, absolutely love the trend spotting exercise with the trend radars and pulling out those stories. That's where we get those legacy, vision, mission stories about this persona and Mr. Wills that we're putting up there. And rather than asking people what they think, ask them what they feel. And you've hit on that. It sounds like there's a trend out there, especially with Gen Z, on the anxiety, which I can't wait to tell my son tonight. He was just telling me last night, He can't understand why in the world the viral video of this to-go cup not being damaged in a car fire. Now, almost every girl in his classroom has one of these cups. And when you start to understand how that makes someone feel, and you understand the audience, you can start putting the pieces together, and it's a whole lot easier to know what questions to ask and just leap forward with those. And we start to think, how few of our competitors are having these types of conversations with our customers?
Absolutely. You got it.
It's incredible. Thank you so much, Andrew. There is a link to a LinkedIn post in our chat. Please feel free to click on that, connect with Andrew. Any recommendations, what you're seeing, any great customer stories that you have, or any questions for Andrew, please feel free to share it in the LinkedIn post. And we really appreciate you being with us today on Cerius Leadership, and all of your support and your commentary to help us make us a better world, and certainly a better world for our customers. Take care.
Thank you very much. Thanks to everybody for attending.